So who are you?
My name's Evan Padromo. I'm founder and CEO of StatusNet Inc. We make an open source microblogging server called StatusNet.
Yeah, it's like a Twitter or Facebook competitor, and it's really interesting. We're here halfway between the Twitter conference and the Facebook conference. So how do you see the marketplace playing out, and why does StatusNet exist, I guess?
Yeah, so I think StatusNet exists to fulfill a need of a lot of people, both on the public web and on the private web, to have a microblogging server that they control, right?
Yeah.
Something that you can install, configure, change, and customize to fit your businesses or personal needs.
Yeah, I never understood why CNN or any of these big brands are gifting advertising, basically advertising dollars by saying, join us on twitter.com/CNN. They're gifting that to another service that they don't control, the branding on, and they can't do much with that, right?
Yeah, really. I think that's a great case. You know, there are a number of organizations that are putting out a presence on these social media platforms like Facebook or Twitter, where they have a very limited control of the platform, and they don't have access to analytics, they don't have access to customization of the interface, they can't really make things change. By setting up a social media server that is under your control, you can integrate it with the rest of your web properties, you can put it under your own domain, give it a look and feel that works a lot more like your other websites. And you can really kind of set that as your base of operations and drive your social media presence outward from there. So have a web-based presence that pushes out into other networks.
So StatusNet, is that a software that I load on my server, or is it a service that I pay you for? What?
Well, yes and yes.
Okay.
Yes, StatusNet is it's open source software. It's downloadable from status.net, from our website. It's also available on a number of different hosting systems as a one-click install, but you can download it from our server and set it up on your own servers. It runs using PHP and MySQL, the so-called LAMP platform. So it's very similar installation to, say, WordPress or Drupal.
So on Rackspace, you can just go to Rackspace Cloud, start up a server, add PHP or add MySQL to it, and it should run just fine?
Yeah, it should run just fine, and we have a number of people who do use the Rackspace Cloud for hosting their sites.
Very cool.
And it's a really good system for doing it. The value of that is that you can have something that you run on your own. If you want to, you can also sign up. We have a cloud service, so similar to, say, WordPress.com or Acquia, for setting up your own StatusNet site on our servers, and you get all the advantage of cloud computing out of that. So we handle the maintenance, upgrades, backups, all the issues that you have with running your own software. So it's really a trade-off of control and utility.
Yeah.
Easy use.
A lot of people in the tech world, not necessarily end users because they don't understand the problems, but we've gifted Facebook and Twitter with these status feeds. Yeah. Almost all of the control, right? Right. Imagine the email world being like that. We haven't done that with email, right? But we have with these status feeds. Right. Where do you see that going? Because a lot of my developer friends are using your tool to decentralize the Twitter kind of thing, so that you can have Twitters basically all over the place that are not running on centralized hardware. So if an earthquake hits, it doesn't take down the whole system. Right? Exactly,
and we've seen a lot of there are some emergency response use cases, military use cases where you're disconnected from the rest of the internet, and you need to have that kind of social messaging system, mobile devices that wouldn't work if they depended on Twitter or Facebook to be up. As well as everybody else in the world that needs Twitter and Facebook to be up. Yeah. What we've been doing, we have 20,000 sites on the public web, right? Some of these are hundreds or thousands of users. Some are 2 or 3 users. The advantage of using these networks would go down considerably if they were disconnected. What we've done is taken some of the emerging protocols in the social web, things driven by organizations like Google. They've been really great at pushing these forward. So protocols like PubSub Hubbub, Salmon, WebFinger, and activity streams. And we've pulled them together to make it possible to connect these disparate StatusNet sites into a network of networks, which is really means that you treat these servers as if they're different sites. You look at them as different sites, but I can follow you on your StatusNet site, and you can follow me, and it's really a very seamless experience as far as how the how people work together. I can reply to you, you reply to me.
How do I hook? So let's say I start a new StatusNet server. How do I make sure it sees all the other StatusNet servers out there? Do I have to do anything, or does it just automatically do that?
Out of the box, automatically does that. All it has to do is have connection to the web, and it should be able to discover other people.
And how does it do that? What's the protocol that it's using to talk to the other servers?
Yeah, so the first and most important one there is a protocol called WebFinger. That gives us a way to discover who else is able to support distributed updates and remote follows. So WebFinger gives you an account ID much like an email address. So I'm Evan at status.net, and you can discover me on the web using that identifier. It's nice because it closely associates you with an organization and a domain that you own rather than one that you don't own. Although we have some Google also supports WebFinger, so you can remote subscribe to people on Buzz using their Gmail address.
Now that's interesting. So does Buzz hook up to status.net?
Absolutely. You can subscribe to people on Buzz using status.net.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So the nice
that's
thing
something
about
that Twitter and Facebook don't yet support, right?
No, not at all. So we can, from within status.net, using these open protocols, this isn't customized stuff, we can subscribe to Google Buzz, to Tumblr, Postgres, WordPress.com, LiveJournal. So there are a number of services that are already supporting this PubSub Hubbub protocol. And clickset.com is another one that's also supporting Salmon. We're seeing a lot of traction with these protocols to be bringing a lot of these services together in making a nice social mesh, this network of networks.
Are you also supporting RSS or just PubSub Hubbub?
We also support RSS Cloud, which I think is a really neat system. And it's not our goal to push any particular protocol. We've just found that PubSub Hubbub has more traction right now. But I think we're one of the biggest publishers of RSS Cloud today. Yeah.
So where do you think this is going? Right now, it seems like Twitter and Facebook have won.
We talk about Twitter having won, and I think in terms of being the single largest microblogging system, the single largest social messaging system, I think it's going to remain that way for a long time. I think it's a fantastic system. They're doing a great job really innovating with it. However, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of networks out there that aren't connected to Twitter. So StatusNet sites, Yammer sites, Socialcast sites. These are
and Salesforce chatters coming in. I mean,
chatters
inside the enterprise. We should talk about because that's different than the consumer web.
Well, that's the funny part is that we thought that with email 20 years ago, right? There was consumer-oriented email at AOL and CompuServe, and then you would have your own email system inside the enterprise. And it was only when we started connecting enterprises together, connecting them to the consumer email systems too, that email really took off and became this universal platform. And I think that's something that's going to happen with social messaging too. As we connect these enterprise systems to their vendors and customers, it's going to become much more powerful. And I think we're going to really see some explosive growth in social messaging.
Are you dealing with just 140 character messages? Tell me what your limitations are and what your philosophy is that's different from Twitter or whatnot.
So with open source software,
and now they're putting all sorts of metadata around the 140 characters, right?
Yeah, because they have to stretch it out, right? I think with open source software, it's all about choice, right? We have We have sites that go down to 1 character and to unlimited. So it's really kind of up to the site administrators to decide what works for them. 140 characters tends to be too limiting for enterprise users or people who aren't really, engaged in that kind of limiting system for social messaging, right? So they're not as attached to this 140 limit that people who have been doing Twitter for a long time really enjoy.
I don't know that we enjoy it, we just live with it.
we live with it, but there's something about that pithiness of that those short systems. Whereas if you're in if you're in an organization and you're trying to tell everybody about the new plan, and you run out of characters, you're like, forget it, I'm not going to use this anymore. Yeah. So we have most of our organizations, I think we did some work on this, and people are really looking for between 140 and 500 characters. Yeah. That's about where they want to be. But we leave it up to the site, and then at organizational junctures, we make the decisions about whether to truncate stuff and link or whether to share it fully. So with Twitter and Facebook, we truncate and link. With other organizations, we share it all the way across, and then it's up to the site to truncate. So
you're starting to build a lot of algorithms to figure out how to make that message look nice in a tweet, for instance, if it goes back out over to Twitter.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's something that we have to deal with, because we do. We acknowledge that any social network, it's about connections to people, right? And it's about that network value that's generated when you have connections to people. So setting up a StatusNet site that's cut off from the rest of the social web is less valuable than one that can connect. Yeah. So we gateway our messages through Twitter's API in and out, so you can read your streams from Twitter, as well as pushing stuff out to Twitter. And so that's really valuable for people who are trying to maintain a social media presence. Yeah. We also do the same thing with Facebook, so we push information out to Facebook. And the idea is that you're staying connected to the rest of the social web, while still having your own base of operations.
So there's a bunch of areas that I could see you're going to innovate over the next year or something. Yeah. And one thing I like about you guys is you have a little bit more open template, right? So if I build a site for CNN or Coca-Cola,
right.
Coca-Cola is a famous example, right?
Yeah.
They want everything to be red.
Yeah.
And on Twitter, it's really difficult to do that. It's difficult to get rid of the Twitter logo because it's sitting up there,
Right. And there's this kind of step where you're on Coca-Cola.com and you're following links and you're reading about what's going on with Coca-Cola, and then you click the follow us on Twitter, and all of a sudden you're in this entirely different domain, different look and feel, different navigation. There's no way to get back to where you just were, and it's got this really big disconnect with the rest of Coca-Cola's properties. And it's something that we've been really, for people who are doing social media marketing, this is just par for the course.
What do you think about being fully compliant with the Twitter API? Are you going to do that so that people can build systems that fully integrate?
Yeah. So it's interesting for us. One of the things that we have is a Twitter compatible API. It's mostly compatible. We have some things that have turned out to be, it's a moving target for us as they come out with stuff. Yeah. We want to make sure that we can, make it very similar for client developers. We have some features that we haven't caught up with yet. Lists is probably the one that people know the best. That's been mixed because there are only a few clients that really support List natively within the client. So, but it is a priority. As annotations come in and as some of the other stuff comes in, but we've been tracking very well with, say, location awareness. Some of the other, new stuff, retweets is another thing that we caught on very quickly. So it's a moving target. We also have, the issue of extending the API to meet other customers' needs, right? So we have issues around providing group functionality. So you can send to one, send a message to one.
Which gets to the corporate side of
exactly.
The world,
So it's something that's more valuable for inside the enterprise or for.
Tell me about tagging, because actually there's a whole range of things that I need for curation. I don't know if you saw my post about the 7 things a curator needs. But the first one is bundling, and bundling is tagging.
Right.
So can I tag each tweet Can I tag Rocky's tweets or status messages in status.net?
No, not yet. But that's something that we want to have, because it's really valuable to be able to bring that kind of thing. We have tagging of people, so you can tag yourself or you can tag other people. You can tag your subscriptions and then use that to organize subscriptions. So similar to how lists work, but we use it in some other ways so that you can take streams from people that you've tagged. We also do, we can narrow your outgoing stream by the tags that are in the outgoing stream, so you can see that in the web interface or from the API.
Why don't you allow tagging of tweets?
Good question. It's a really good feature that has come up a couple times before. It just hasn't been on the roadmap up until this point, but now it is.
We need this to be able to curate, because we need to bundle tweets. I need to say that tweet and that tweet and that tweet belong together.
Right, they're part of this conversation.
And it has to be done not by the author of the tweet, which is why I don't like Twitter's new annotations. Annotations can only be written at the time of tweet.
Right.
They can't be written later.
Right. But as we're talking about this is something that we do have some, very small extra information that we put onto tweets. So I can fave your tweets, and that's, this kind of binary thing. But it makes a lot of sense to be able to organize them in different ways and slice them and dice them, and that's exactly what tagging is for. Yeah. So this is a really good point.
Are you going to compete with or build a system that competes with ClickSat that does aggregation of, because Buzz now I can aggregate my YouTube videos and my Flickr photos into the stream.
Right.
And that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think it's a really nice thing that to be able to do. It's on our roadmap to have this, it's really interesting. I think I mentioned that we support the activity streams system, and so I think that we'll be building that using Activity Streams protocol. There's a lot of interest right now in social media aggregation, live streaming systems. Google Buzz is one, ClickSat's another. FriendFeed is another great one that people really like. I think being able to do that kind of aggregation on your own servers and in your own system rather than having it elsewhere is really great too.
Very cool. So, well, thank you so much for giving me a little look into what's going on with StatusNet.
Well, great.
We learn more about it at status.net, right?
Yeah, status.net. That's
where do we find you on the internet? Are you on Twitter?
Evan.status.net.
And are you on Twitter as well?
I'm Evan Pro on Twitter.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Robert.